The story of the person knocking at the door at 2 a.m. This happened not too long ago. I live alone, in a small apartment in Ho Chi Minh City. Not fancy, not too old, just quiet and lonely. It all started one night. It was 2 a.m. I was asleep when I heard a knock at the door. Knock. 3 slow, heavy knocks. I jolted awake, sat up, heart pounding. Who would knock at my door in the middle of the night? I got out of bed and looked through the peephole. No one there. I opened the door slightly and looked down the hallway. Empty. Not a soul in sight. I figured it was someone knocking on the wrong door. Or maybe just some kid playing around. I shut the door and went back to sleep. But the next night, again, at 2 a.m., 3 knocks. No one in the hallway. Then again the night after, and the night after that. Every night, exactly 2 a.m., 3 knocks. Not faster, not slower, like some kind of cursed clockwork. I started getting scared. I told the building guard, but he just laughed and said I must have been dreaming. I wasn't dreaming. I started waiting at 1:59. Standing behind the door, not moving, barely breathing. At 2 o'clock sharp, knock. Knock. I lunged to the peephole. Still no one. I never opened the door again, but I had to know. I set up a small camera facing my door, hidden near the shoe cabinet. It connected to my phone. I wanted to see who or what was knocking. The next morning, I watched the footage. At exactly 2 a.m., the camera was triggered by motion. The hallway was empty. Then suddenly, a white figure appeared. It didn't walk into frame. It didn't come from the elevator. It just, appeared like it had always been there. A tall, white shape, no face, no features, like a person wrapped in thin white cloth, hospital sheets maybe, or worse. It stood completely still. Then, slowly, it raised one arm, and knocked, once, twice, 3 times. Then it lowered its arm, and vanished. Not walked away, not faded. Just disappeared like someone pressed delete. I froze. My hands went cold. I sent the clip to a friend, a guy into paranormal stuff. He watched it and said only one thing: lock your door, and don't ever open it. I stopped sleeping properly. I put up charms. I prayed. I changed my door lock code, but it still came. Every night, 2 a.m. sharp, 3 knocks. Then last night, it didn't knock 3 times, it knocked 4. And then I heard a voice whisper, "Let me in." I crouched on the floor, holding my breath. Tears streamed down my face. I didn't open it. I'm never going to open it. So if you live alone, and one night someone knocks at your door at 2 a.m. Remember this story. Don't answer, don't ask who it is, and most of all, don't ever open the door. The horror story of the gas station at 3 a.m. 3 a.m. The highway was deserted, with only the hum of the engine and the dim yellow glow of streetlights flickering across the asphalt. I was driving from Ho Chi Minh City to Binh Duong, after working a late-night shift. The night felt colder than usual, and my fuel gauge was dropping fast. I started to get nervous. This stretch of road was pretty isolated. Luckily, just after passing a turn, I spotted a gas station on the right. Its lights were still on, and a man in a blue uniform was standing silently behind the pump. I pulled in and sighed in relief. The attendant said nothing. He just smiled. A strange smile, not warm, not unfriendly, just ... out of place, like it didn't belong here. I rolled down my window and said, "Full tank, please." He nodded without a word and started fueling. While waiting, I noticed something odd. It was too quiet. No insects, no cars, no wind, nothing but the faint sound of fuel flowing into the tank. When he finished, I reached for my wallet, but he didn't hand me a receipt. "How much is it?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just smiled again and made a soft gesture, as if telling me to go. I felt a chill, but handed him some cash, then drove away, not daring to look back. The next morning, while having breakfast with a friend in Binh Duong, I casually mentioned what happened. I even joked, "Lucky I found that gas station in the middle of nowhere." But man, the guy was weird. Just kept smiling, didn't say a single word. My friend froze, chopsticks still in hand. His face turned pale. "What gas station?" he asked. I replied, "About 2 kilometers past the intersection. On the right." Lights were still on. He stared at me for a few seconds, then lowered his voice. "You sure? That station ... burned down last year. A guy died in that fire. He was working the night shift, got trapped in the fueling room, Burned alive. My heart skipped a beat. Stop messing with me. He shook his head slowly. I used to live nearby. For months after the fire, people swore they saw a faint light there at night. But when they got close, it vanished. No one goes near that place after dark anymore. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. But that night, I went back to check for myself. I drove to the exact spot where I had stopped the night before, but it was just an empty lot. Overgrown weeds. No station. No lights. No one. I stopped the car and stepped out. A cold shiver ran down my spine. Under the glow of my headlights, something glinted by the roadside. I walked closer. It was a rusted gas meter cap, burned around the edges, fused with hardened black resin. And at that very moment, I heard footsteps behind me, slow, dragging footsteps, on bare dirt. I turned around and saw nothing under the light. I didn't wait another second. I jumped into my car, floored the gas, and drove straight through the night. Since then, I've never stopped for gas after midnight again. And if you ever find yourself driving down that same road around 3 a.m. and see a gas station still lit, in the dark, just keep going. He might be waiting for you too. The horror story of Vietnam, the faux seller at midnight. It was close to midnight when Th, a long-distance truck driver, pulled over near an old bus station in a quiet town in southern Vietnam. The road was empty, silent except for the low hum of his tired and hungry. He scanned the roadside for anything still open. That's when he saw it, a small noodle stall lit by a single flickering bulb, barely holding its light in the night breeze. Behind the stall stood a woman. She didn't speak, didn't wave, just stood quietly behind a steaming pot of HTQ traditional southern than parked, stepped out of his truck, and approached. As he got closer, the aroma of broth and spices filled the air. The woman, still saying nothing, looked at him and gave a faint smile. Her expression was calm, but oddly unsettling. She seemed to be waiting for him. "One bowl, please," Tachinich said. More out of politeness, thought the woman nodded slowly, and began preparing the soup. She moved smoothly, gracefully, almost like he sat down on a plastic stool. The bowl she placed before him was hot and fragrant. As he ate, he glanced around. The area was completely deserted. No sounds, no lights, just the bubbling of the wind. He finished. He stood up. How much is it?" The woman didn't answer. She simply shook her head and gave him another, slightly confused, but too tired to argue. He nodded his thanks, got back in his truck, and drove off. In the rearview mirror, he saw her still standing there, not moving. Still as the next morning, Takanage passed by the same area again, hoping to properly thank the woman and maybe leave her some money. He slowed the truck as he approached the familiar curve near the bus station. But the noodle stall was gone. There was nothing there, just weeds, cracked pavement, and a rusted sign leaning sideways. No table, no stools, no light. The spot where he sat last night was now bare. Puzzled, he walked around the area, and then he saw it. At the back of the lot, beneath a small tree, was an old grave, forgotten, weathered by time. The writing on the stone was barely readable. Beside the grave sat a large, blackened pot, cracked and scorched, like it had been through a fire, years. The story of the message, at 1 a.m. Last night, I stayed up late working. Around 1 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was a text message from my own phone number. Just one line. "Don't look behind you." A chill ran down my spine. I thought it was a prank. I replied, "Who is this?" No response. I turned to look behind me. Nothing. Just my dark, quiet room. I told myself it was a glitch, maybe a virus. But just as I got up to go to bed, my phone buzzed again. Another message from my number. This time, it was a video. I tapped play. It was recorded from my phone's rear camera, showing me, sitting, at my desk. And, right behind me, a white figure, no face, no features, leaning close to my ear. I dropped my phone and spun around. No one was there. But when I picked up my phone again, the figure was still standing there, staring at me, through the camera. Thanks for staying until the end of the story. If you enjoyed this little chill down your spine, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below, especially if you've ever experienced something strange yourself. I read every comment, even the creepy ones. Until next time, sleep tight.